Hey peeps. So today I want to talk about some concepts that I've learned in the past couple years that differ a lot from what I was told growing up. And, when I was growing up, I was taught a lot of things about the world, about, our lives and the spirit world. And they basically had told me one of the things, for example, was, you either have a couple seconds through 100 years to live your life, and then that will determine what happens to you for all of eternity. That doesn't really make any sense to me. It didn't make any sense to me then, and I kind of just said, okay, I don't believe that. That, along with a lot of other things that I was being told, just either didn't seem loving or just didn't seem to make sense. And not that I really had the answers at the point of what did make sense, but I just knew that that wasn't for me in terms of what I believed. So, fast forward to decades later, I started learning some stuff after my mom's death that, made me really say, oh, that makes a lot more sense. And that really resonates with me at a deep level. And, even if it seemed a little strange at first, after I mulled it over and thought about it, I was like, oh, I understand how that could sort of fit in to this life. So I just wanted to go over some things that I've learned that, are different from what we probably were taught. But, for me, resonated at a soul level. And I would just say for you, anything that anyone tells you about the world, about life, you basically take that information in and you say, oh, does that really resonate with me? Does that make sense to me? If it doesn't, no, thank you. You don't have to believe that. If it does, you can integrate that into your belief system in your life. And, that's sort of what I think we do with everything. So, whatever I'm telling you, you take from it what you will. And if it makes sense to you, you can integrate that into your life. But I think that goes with anything anyone says or tells you, because, you need to check it internally with yourself before you believe something. So I would just say that, as you're listening to all this stuff, see what resonates with you. So what I've learned in the past couple years about the structure of spirit life and human life. So before we come here, we basically are spirits, and we talk with other spirits who are in our soul group, and we say, hey, let's go to the human world and let's do whatever we're going to plan to do. So this lifetime, we're going to plan to live in poverty and learn about poverty. And one of us is going to have cancer and pass away, and we're all going to have to learn to deal with grief. And, this other person is going to have, a disability, and we're going to have to learn how to care for them and have compassion. And that's just one scenario. Or maybe you'll say, hey, we want to come and explore wealth, explore abundance, and I'm going to come and I'm going to, have this very successful business, and I'm going to make a lot of money, and I'm going to see how that feels to live that. Because, with everything in life, you have to know both sides of the coin to really understand the concept. So you have to know abundance to know poverty, and poverty to know abundance. And I think that's with everything, good and bad, So that's why you sort of have to come down here and explore the polarities of, the different things in life. And you can come down here many times. And that's why I now believe in reincarnation, based on everything that I've researched. And it makes more sense to me. Throughout this lifetime, as a human life, and we just see it in our own lives, you're accumulating experiences and you're growing from that, and you're becoming a more evolved human being, a more evolved person, hopefully, for most people. And you take those experiences and you learn from them. So the same thing is present on a soul level, where you're coming down to have a human experience, and you're accumulating at your soul level the different experiences to evolve as a soul. So it's similar to this lifetime, but just on a grander scale. So, for example, I went to a medium and she told me I had 663 lives. Now, I was expecting her to say like 9. I just had no concept of how many lives one would live, but apparently you can live, thousands of lives. So, and it also makes sense too, because when you look at people that are doing different things, why does someone come down here and have a totally different mindset than someone else? And that's probably because of the aggregate of their experiences as a soul. And the younger souls are going to be concerned about more basic things like money, just getting through life, health, all those things that are they're just trying to cover the basics of life. Because as they evolve as a soul, they can then start focusing on higher things. And if you think of that in terms of life here, you can also see that, obviously if your first needs aren't met, food and stuff like that, you don't you're not going to be able to go up and start thinking about higher levels of thinking or philosophy or art or whatever it is, because you're just trying to fulfill those needs. So as a soul, when you're, when you're starting out and growing as a soul, you're going to be more focused on those base things. As you evolve as a soul, you sort of focus on maybe some higher level enlightenment things. And that doesn't mean that what that soul is doing is bad or worse than what someone who is an older soul is doing. That just means that that's where they are on the spectrum right now, and they're learning the things they need to learn. And I was there at some point, and you were there at some point. And wherever you are, like, that's where you're supposed to be in that lifetime, and you're learning the things you need to learn. So you basically aggregate these experiences. So that makes a lot of sense to me, and that's why I've chosen, to integrate that into my life view now. And I feel that too, just in seeing different experiences with people. Why is somebody super connected to, Jim? You think he's like loves Europe? Probably because he lived in Europe. Somebody has a fear of heights. Maybe they died because they fell off of something, right? All these things sort of accumulate in your psyche, and you don't even, you're not necessarily cognizant of that happening in a past life or something like that. But, that comes forward with you, and that's another reason why people sort of, when you are born, you have a personality. You have these things that are already established because you've already, established different experiences. And even though you don't remember all those experiences directly, they're in your subconscious. They're with you at a soul level. So that's all super interesting stuff, I think, and hopefully you find it interesting too. I'm trying to think of what else I want to talk about. Maybe soul contracts. And this has sort of helped me really understand why certain things are happening in my life, why I've chosen to be with my family, why I've chosen the husband I have. So, before you come to this earth, you say, hey, you're going to be my mom, and I'm going to marry you, and why don't you be my child? And, you have a general plan. Obviously, everyone still has free will. So you have this plan. We're going to go and try to do enact this scenario so we can learn these lessons. But when you come here, maybe things change. Maybe you don't make the decision you want. And that's when the world starts pushing you back toward the plan. And that's where you get things like, I don't know, you feel like anxiety, or you feel some sort of stress. You feel like you're not content with your life because you're probably not following the path that you had planned. And you probably feel, a little off. And sometimes, this is where I think sometimes our spirit guides and stuff can come in. They can sort of help put ideas in your head to redirect you to the right place you're supposed to go in this lifetime. Whether that's, making a move or changing jobs or, getting out of a marriage or whatever it is, so that you can progress and learn the lessons you were supposed to learn in this life. And, when I think about my family, obviously I'm very different than them. And I think I chose to come there with them for various reasons, maybe to help them, maybe to help me, maybe to make me stronger in my beliefs and allow me to, when I was younger, I say, like, I had to experience a lot of scenarios where I was the only one believing what I believed, and they were all saying something else. And I had to stand my ground and say, you know what, I don't believe that. It doesn't resonate with me. I don't think that's a loving thing to do. I'm not going to believe that. You can believe that if you want, but you can't make me believe that. And I think that's serving me really well now that I've, had this shift in belief, because now that I've learned some things that do resonate with me, I am sort of going through the same thing again, where, I have these beliefs that other people don't have, and I have to sort of stand my ground and believe them. And even if other people around me, don't believe those things. So I think it sort of was training for me to come up in this scenario. That's just one thing, maybe also in this lifetime, they decided to explore what it's like to be super religious. Maybe that's what they chose to explore, and that's fine. And, there's no bad experiences. They are just experiences. And I'm not going to judge the decisions they're making or the experiences they decided to have, because on this lifetime, they're either going to learn it. And if they don't learn it, when they die and they do their life review, which is what people say, I saw my life flash before my eyes. That's what's called the life review. So after you pass, you basically are going to go over what happened in your lifetime and see what that impacted you, impacted the others around you. And it's just putting it in perspective. So maybe this lifetime they're learning about religion or whatever, and maybe they'll learn the lessons here that they're supposed to learn. Or maybe during their life review, when they go, pass over into the spirit world, they're going to look back and say, oh, well, okay, maybe that was like not the right view to have, or maybe that was teaching me this thing or that thing, or this is how my view impacted another person, this is how my action impacted another person, and that is just as valuable as learning it in this life. So you just have to sort of allow people to have the experiences they're going to have, and you're only in control of your own life and your own belief and your own experiences. So I've sort of let go and surrendered to allow people space to have their experiences and allow them to have their beliefs. And it doesn't mean that mine are going to change. It doesn't mean I have to change theirs. I'm just going to live my life with the example I think is a good one to set. And, they can, if that sheds light on their experience, great. And if it doesn't, that's fine too. They are having the experience they're meant to have. So I know that's probably some different concepts for you guys. And if there's any of that you want me to go into more depth about, I'm happy to do that, or do some more research on it. But I really feel, after learning a bunch of this stuff the past couple of years, that this has really resonated with me. It really makes sense to me, and I'm a skeptical person. I mean, you guys know me. I'm just not going to believe something because you told it to me. And I think I checked it with myself, with my soul, and I said, does this make sense? Does this make sense that this would be the structure? Does this make sense that this is in the most loving vein, that this is going to happen? And it didn't just hear it and immediately say that makes sense to me. Some of it I had to sort of mull over for a while and let it sit with me a little bit and see if it made sense after a while, and see if things sort of connected synchronistically with that belief. And it's not like you're going to hear it and be like, oh my gosh, that's it. You might hear it, and maybe a year later it starts to make sense, or 2 years later, or 5 years later. So, just let whatever resonates with you resonate with you, and don't let other people dictate your beliefs, because, you're in control of this existence and your learning and your growth. So don't allow someone else to dictate that to you. Allow, your spirit, your soul, to make the assessment of what's real for you and what makes sense for you. Okay, talk to you guys later.